Hi guys, I'll start this video a little differently with a quick story of when I went to a Lee Haney seminar. I'm not sure exactly when that was, but my best guess would be sometime in 1985, which is quite frightening that that's over 30 years ago. At the time I'd been training at home, and my exposure to bodybuilding was pretty much through the magazines. I weighed about 160 pounds at 6'3", so I was a small guy. I was really personally insecure and easily intimidated by anyone with some muscle development, or really anyone in general, to be quite honest with you. At the seminar I was wandering around the hall quite nervously, and then I came across a table with a whole bunch of people gathering around it, and that's when I saw the back of Lee Haney. It just blew my mind. He was just enormous. So I ended up joining the queue to get a signed photo, silently practicing what I was going to say to him. And when it came to my turn, I went up to the front of the queue, and I pretty much was starstruck and said a bunch of words that made no sense at all. But thankfully I managed to get out my first name, which was enough for him to sign the photo for me. Now it's really weird, because normally in something like that I would have crawled away in embarrassment and still look back on it and cringe, but something about that moment with Haney, this guy was only a couple of years older than me at the time. His friendly, easy manner, his confidence, self-assurance, and of course his physique, that made me think, man, this is what I've got to do. This is how I've got to train. I've got to train a lot harder. Start going to the gym, which I ended up going to the gym, and it ended up making me a stronger person, both mentally and physically. And the point of the story, other than say what a dick I was at the time, is to say that I do have a soft spot for this guy, but look, I'm going to try to be unbiased in what I say following. So going on. Okay, so Lee Haney, going on to his stats here. He's about 5'11", competition weight about 245, 250 pounds, big at the time. He competed in 16 pro competitions from 1983 to 1991, lowest placing being third. From 84 to 1991 he was never beaten. 8-time Mr. Olympia, a record that's yet to be beaten, equalled but not beaten. He retired at 32. Just amazing. Muscle maturity is barely even there at 32, if it is at all. And as a comparison, Ronnie didn't win his first Olympia until, he's 34. Now for my physique critique, and I'll start off with some negatives. His arms weren't a strong point, and this was most obvious to me in any footage I saw in the mandatory poses. As in free posing, he had a way of posing it that his arms looked good, and I think that's because of his flaring lats, and it sort of flowed into his arms. But then he had sort of not strong arms, but he didn't hide them either. He even did a crucifix pose, which looked good, and normally someone with weaker arms wouldn't even dare do that. His quads were a bit underdeveloped in comparison to his upper body, but I think because of his waist being so small, the size, it's more noticeable looking back than at the time. His lower body from the rear was, quite soft. Now, comparing it to today, where it's super obvious that he didn't have the ripped glutes and the striated hammies, but at the time that wasn't very common. Rich Gaspari is probably the first pro that really came out with ripped glutes, and most others, it didn't seem to be a very important part of the game. On the positives, his upper body was massive, especially through the chest and shoulders, His chest development was really well developed and full. For me, I have his chest up there with one of the best chests in bodybuilding history, and I base that on his overall development, separation of the fibres, striations, and general shape of it. When he was posing and even when he was relaxed, I just liked the way it looked. Now, acknowledging that Samir Bannout and his impressive back in his 1983 Olympia victory, my view is that Haney's thick, detailed, wide back is what set the standard for years to come and made having a great back an essential thing to challenge for the Mr. O. Now, Haney also had a really gifted structure. He had the small waist, he had really wide shoulders, and that really emphasised his great V taper. 1991 was that was his last Olympia win, and that was against his successor in Dorian Yates in second. Both have got super awesome physiques, but look, you can barely compare these two guys. They were just so different in the way they were structurally made. Haney had his really great lines, really flared out body, and Yates was just like a piece of granite, and he had really well developed legs, and maybe not so much at the time, but and going forward for sure, his rear lower part was superior by a long way. But look, Yates had a shocking mullet, and I don't know if that cost him any points. Now, I don't know if at the time Haney was seeing the future in Yates, or maybe just had enough of the professional bodybuilding thing, and that was the end of his career. And a good one at that. Anyway, that's my little review on Lee Haney. To me, one of the greatest champions of all time, and on statistics-wise, Olympias, he is equal greatest champion. Personally, this guy's still an influence on me even today. As decades later, I'm still plugging away at the gym, trying to emulate him, and clearly I'll never get there, but you're always pushing. Hopefully my comments have been fair and unbiased. Look, I know that even the negatives I sort of made a counter positive towards him, but I think that's what made him and a lot of these guys special. Even if they got a negative, they got a way of either posing it or not hiding it, but making another body part stand out so these other ones aren't as obvious. They're just smarter than some of the other guys in how they do things. Anyway, look, that's it. Welcome your comments. See you later. Bye.